And now time for The Viewing Room with Adam and Ethan.
What's the first rule of Fight Club?
Don't talk about Fight Club.
What's the second rule of Fight Club?
Don't talk about Fight Club.
Well, I guess that was a short episode.
I'm Ethan,
I'm Adam.
and you just watched The Viewing Room.
Ha. First try. We got it first try.
Is that it? Is that it?
That was all I had planned.
Perfect.
That was the only thing I put any thought into.
That's about the extent of our planning today, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Cool. I just fucked up my hair immediately.
That's why I'm wearing a hat. I took your advice from last episode. Wear a hat.
I know I really should just wear a hat. Do you want to eat your cookie before we do the episode?
No, I'm eating my cookie during the episode.
Because if I listen back to this episode and all I hear is... Oh yeah, Brad Pitt. I'm going to be very, very disappointed. Okay, well. I can't do this.
We'll do some asthma as producer Gary says. Hi Maggie, you can't have my cookie. We really need to have a Maggie cam for the viewing room.
Do we?
We should. Well, next time.
Oh. Give Maggie a cookie, bro.
I can. I'm sorry.
Give Maggie
Anyway,
a cookie, dog.
we'll stop wasting time here. All right.
Finish your cookie verse.
No,
I'm serious.
You start talking.
Finish-
All right. Start
Finish
the
your
introduction.
cookie. Finish
Start
your
the
cook-
introduction.
Finish your cookie. There we go. Perfect. Oh God, that's gonna be such a distracting. Whatever. Okay. Welcome to the viewing room. Today we're talking about Fight Club. It was directed by David Fincher and it was released on October 15th, 1999. Again with the cookie. What are you doing with the cookie?
These are really good cookies, okay?
I don't even know.
What do you want me to do?
I had such a flawless intro. With a runtime of 2 hours and 19 minutes, it stars Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, and Helena Carter. Nothing. You have nothing. Okay. Well, I'll read a synopsis in a bit here. But it had a budget of $63 million, and it grossed 101, considering it...
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I read somewhere else that it only grossed 37, and everybody thought it was a flop.
No. So 37 would be how much it made. Like...
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it grossed 101. It was a box office flop. No one was good. And then it sold 13 million copies on DVD, and it paid for itself.
What would people do without DVD? Like, nobody makes DVDs and movies anymore. I mean, they do, but like,
Yeah,
that's not a big. It's not a big thing now. It's the streaming services that.
Yeah.
I wonder how much money there is in those streaming services. Like, there has to be a lot, but like, I wonder compared to DVDs, how much there is.
Yeah, I don't know. Because you
I
see
mean-
those Walmart. You know the Walmart
Yeah,
bins?
they have all the DVDs, but like,
Sometimes you can find a DVD that used to be $20 on like $3.
yeah.
And that's pretty cool. That's
But
something
like,
like DVDs.
with the streaming services, you don't have to like with a DVD. Every single one has to be manufactured, and that's a cost.
Sure.
But with a streaming service, you don't.
Don't they have a server cost though?
Yeah, but that's
Technically?
so much more. That's so much less per user. You know.
Fair enough. All right. First off, before I read the synopsis, I would like to say that you and I are Bob and the narrator in the movie
Yes.
from that one scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know what scene.
I know it's seen. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I guess. Do you have anything to add before I read the synopsis?
No, go for it.
No, you're done your cookie now. We're good.
Oh, well, we should make it clear. When we talk about Tyler, we're talking about Brad Pitt's character. And when we talk about the narrator, we're talking about the nameless multi-name guy.
The multi-name, Edward Norton's character.
Yes.
Yes. Who doesn't have a name throughout the movie, which kind of a giveaway maybe, but we will read the synopsis. So, a depressed man, aka Edward Norton, suffering from insomnia, meets a strange soap salesman named Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt, and soon finds himself in his squalid house after his perfect apartment is destroyed. The two bored men form an underground club with strict rules and fight other men who are fed up with their mundane lives. Their perfect partnership phrase when Marla, played by Helena Carter, a fellow support group crasher, attracts Tyler's attention. So, kind of going through here, rough outline. Helena Carter's character has been going to these support group meetings that Edward Norton's character is going to because his life is boring, mundane, he has insomnia, and he finds some sort of peace in going to all these support groups, and then their pathways keep intertwining and stuff like that, and he eventually stops going to support groups and stops seeing Helena's character, and eventually they cross paths again when Tyler, his good buddy, is what's the word?
Banging her?
Sure. I was trying to find something more appropriate, but
Well, I mean,
yeah,
making love, whatever.
Making love.
If you've watched this movie, I think you can handle that.
Rubbing soap on their bodies.
No, because in this movie, soap is a metaphor for, or not metaphor. I forgot all my English classes.
That's okay.
It's like a symbol for explosives.
Isn't the metaphor a symbol? A simile? That's not what a simile
All of my
is.
English teachers are going to be very disappointed if they see this.
It's a good thing I'm a dropout. That's a joke, Mom. So
It's really not.
I have a bunch of facts.
Really not.
I have a bunch of facts, but I think we should do that after we do the outline. But why don't you tell us why we reviewed this movie and where we did it and how it went?
So we have partnered with Coliseum Presents. They're a local company here in Saskatoon, and they put on movies that they're not old, but they're not in the theater right now. And they put them on in an actual theater. So we were at the Roxy Theater last night, and it certainly gives you a lot better experience. It's a really great opportunity because most of the time these movies we're watching them at home, but when you're in a theater, you got the sound, big picture, got the mood. It's just more intense,
Yeah, no, and I think it's a good point too. Like a lot of these movies for us, maybe films our parents or grandparents saw in the theaters, right? And we're obviously big movie people, and so it's kind of an awesome experience for us to experience the same movies in theaters as well for the first time, right?
Yep.
Neither of us had seen Fight Club before. I knew what it was about, but I had never seen it through and through. So yeah, like it's nice that we have the opportunity to go and see these things.
And so this will be an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
They've the next one is July 21st, also at the Roxy at 7 p.m. They're showing Happy Gilmore, so that'll be a fun one. So we'll be doing that one in the next episode or maybe the episode after. I'm not sure. These will probably be released after those.
Yeah, I imagine so. But I mean, Happy Gilmore is one of my favorite comedies.
It's a fun. It's just a fun.
It's a good movie. I like Adam Sandler movies.
Well, and that also just shows you how much variety they've got, because we're going from Fight Club, which is like really kind of psycho, to Happy Gilmore, which is like goofy comedy, to Wizard of Oz is the next one after that. Like there's so much variety. So
I should fact check this, but I'm pretty sure Happy Gilmore won more awards than Fight Club.
Oh, I would
because
not
of
be
how
surprised.
divisive it was.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. Yeah. So Coliseum Presents. We
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We had a great time. The popcorn was amazing. I sat down on my seat, took 2 bites, and I was like, compliments to the chef, man, because that popcorn was delicious. It was great.
Yeah.
And yeah, fantastic popcorn. And thanks for that, above all else, actually. And yeah, great turnout. And
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised at how many people there. I mean, Roxy is a big theater, and they probably had it at least half to 2/3 full.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to tell sometimes if people want to go see an already released movie and pay for that experience, but it's awesome that community is going, and there's obviously a lot of avid movie watchers in the city. So yeah, it's fantastic, and I'm so happy that we got to go, and yeah. We're going to do an outline of the plot quickly so you get a feel for this movie. There's going to be spoilers, but this movie came out 25 years ago, so it's on you.
Yeah.
So basically, we meet Edward Norton's character, and he's an insomniac. He's very thoroughly depressed, and he can't go to bed at night. So he starts going to all these support group meetings. Not because he has any like ailments that are particular to him in these support group meetings, but just because it's like a place he feels almost vulnerable, and like he can get some sort of like, even I wouldn't say it's like deranged, but like kind of odd in a way, right? Some sort of peace from it.
My theory sort of is that he like his life relative to those people is pretty well put together, because all those people have like some terminal illness or something like that really screws with somebody's life. But his life, in comparison to those people, he's got a job, he's got an apartment. I feel like his life is a little more put together almost. And so when he goes to those meetings, it's like he feels like reassurance. He feels better about himself, kind of.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he's 100% put together.
No, I know he's not, but he's more put together than those people.
Yeah, I mean, at a time, I guess, maybe also he doesn't know really what's wrong with him either,
Yeah,
too.
that's true.
All these people in all these support groups know that they have testicular cancer. They know that they are dying, most of them, and they're at the support groups for whatever reason. Or but he's at all these things. He has nothing wrong with him on the outside, really, that he knows of. But then we find out later in the movie what's really going on in his head. So from these support groups, he meets Marla. Marla is also a poser, kind of like he is. She's going to all these support groups because it's fun for her and free coffee, as she says. And basically, they don't like that each other is posing. Edward Norton's character feels like it's his kind of place, and she shouldn't be an intruder because he was there first, and for her to find different support group meetings, but she doesn't feel the same way. And so in order to not out each other, they split weeks and stuff of support groups and days so that they can not run into each other anymore and stick with their peeps. And then eventually, while traveling around doing his was he traveling around for work? Is that what he was traveling for?
Yeah. Because he was like a crash investigator. Like when people crash, he'd go and look at what part failed, and then, as he describes it, A times B times C, and if that's less than X, then they can't remember how that goes. Basically, if it's going to cost them more money to do a recall, they don't.
Yeah, they do payouts instead. Yeah, which funny enough, that's probably a real thing.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure it is.
But going on with that, after he's traveling for work and such, he meets Brad Pitt's character, and he's like a soap salesman, and he makes his own soap. And they kind of part ways. He sees him drive off at the airport and stuff after the flight.
In a stolen car.
Yeah. But he doesn't notice it's stolen.
Yeah.
He doesn't notice it's stolen. And he walks through the airport, and he leaves, and he's getting to his apartment, and all of a sudden he realizes his apartment's been blown up. And it's just this crazy moment in the film where he realizes all of his stuff that's on the ground, which is obviously a nod to consumerism and stuff like that, which is moving into the next part of the movie. So he tries to call Tyler Durden, the guy he met on the plane, because he had his business card and he needed a place to stay, right? He was the only one he could think of. And he doesn't answer, but the phone booth gets rang again, and he picks up.
Yeah, like right away he calls back.
Which is interesting because there's a sticker on the phone booth that says, like, it won't take calls. You can't answer a call from the
I didn't notice that.
phone booth. Yeah, so crazy thing. I didn't notice it either. Thanks, YouTube.
Google.
Yep. Yeah. And so he realizes where Tyler is. He goes and sees him at a bar, which would later become Fight Club. They hang out for the night, and he asks if he could stay the night at his place. And then Tyler asks him in a great line. He says, "I want you to hit me as hard as you can."
Yep.
And
that's where it all goes.
that's where it goes
downhill.
south. Yeah, so they fight each other, and they enjoy it. They really do enjoy it. And they're like, "We should do something about this." And I'm blanking. What's like the next thing? Oh,
Then those other
stays
guys
at his
come
house.
out. No, then the other guys come out while they're fighting.
Yeah, they watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're interested.
Yeah.
And then they go to his house. It's broken down. It's crazy. It's leaking. It's rickety. Where do we go from there?
Then they form Fight Club.
Then they form Fight Club. There you go.
Yeah. It gets a little bit confusing from there. I'm trying to remember now too.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. Like the exact timeline. Anyways, Fight Club's formed. They're having people in. They're doing their stuff. It's great. And then Marla shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fight Club's getting bigger and bigger. More people are coming in. It's just guys who, pardon me, kind of live mundane lives. And then all of a sudden, they're now part of something that's kind of bigger than themselves, really. And it's kind of being led by Tyler, or Brad Pitt's character. And Edward Norton is watching it and kind of unfold and stuff, and he wants more of a part in it. But he feels like he's losing that kind of grasp on the actual idea of what it was supposed to be, essentially. Yep. And Marla comes in, sees Brad Pitt, and basically they start getting together, right? And it keeps Edward up at night, or the already insomniac.
Not just at night.
who
all day
consistently
too.
throughout the day hears moaning essentially in the house. And I'll spare you what I practiced. And
he did. In the brand new sound booth.
Yeah. The Dufferin Avenue Media Network sound booth.
Yeah, we can do commercials. We can do voiceovers, audiobooks, whatefer you want. Hit us up, dufferinav.com.
And so next, Fight Club starts to form into Project Mayhem. So in the bottom of the bar where they actually do Fight Club, it's kind of turned into something that's not so much Fight Club. It's kind of turning into like a gang almost.
Yeah,
like
organized crime kind of. In a way.
like terrorists and stuff. And they're basically doing stuff that makes their lives so non-mundane anymore, to like stick it to the man, destroy consumerism and like
blow shit up and
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's completely out of Edward's control, right?
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt's been leading it, Tyler, this whole time. And then eventually Tyler just up and disappears. He goes away, right? So Edward Norton hops on a plane. He travels the world to go see where this Fight Club stuff is happening. And he realizes all over the country, Fight Clubs are being put up by Tyler Durden. But he goes to all these Fight Clubs and he realizes that people are calling him Tyler Durden.
Yes.
And he's so confused why Tyler set him up like this and whatnot. And so he goes back to the city and he realizes, after one of his support group people gets shot, Bob, that, oh shit, this is out of control. I need to go see the police.
Yep.
So he gets to the police station, and the police are also members of Project Mayhem or Fight Club. And they're like gonna kill him now because
No. They're gonna castrate him. They're gonna get rid of his balls.
Oh, well.
There's a big difference.
That felt like killing. I would die if I had my balls chopped off.
What balls?
You got me. Anyways, so he escapes the rogue police essentially, and he goes to try and find Tyler again, and he's hiding away in a hotel room after he's told Marla to skip town because something bad's going to happen, aka bombs have been placed all over the major credit unions in the city as like a final act to stick it to the man and stuff like that. And so he tells Marla to skip town, and all of a sudden he actually sees Marla actually coming back, which is like, uh-oh. But he finds Tyler again, and Tyler's way off. He won't call anything off. He's psychopathic. And then he basically explains to Edward that, oh, I'm you. And they kind of have this crazy interchange where we realize that Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt, is actually Edward Norton's character, and that they've never actually, he's like not a real person, and that Edward Norton's actually the head of this whole operation. He was in full control this whole time. So anyways, after a long fight scene between Brad Pitt and Edward Norton where he's just getting his ass kicked by himself,
which is one of the first times, not the first, but it's one of the first times where they show him, punching himself. And
yeah,
but they do that really well, because when you're in the scene, like when the camera is part of the scene, both characters are there. But then when they show those insert shots from the security cameras, that's when it's not, when he's not there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. And actually, I read this today, too. They never have any over-the-shoulder shots of Brad Pitt. It's all, like, inserts and close-ups and stuff like that. And, like,
never even thought
over
about
the
that.
shoulder of Edward Norton. No over the shoulder of Brad Pitt.
Oh.
Yeah, David Fincher did
That'd
that.
be hard to do a good standard conversation scene.
Right, like basic coverage,
That would be
right?
really creative.
I like the creativity.
Yeah.
And so moving on, basically he gets his ass whooped and he's now taken up to like the top floor of this apartment building essentially.
Some sort of a
Yeah.
big high rise.
I like to think that high rise used to be his apartment. And like that's where the bomb went off.
Oh, that could be good.
But I just thought of that now, but it's probably not real at all because it would still technically.
But it would bring it full circle.
Yeah, it would be interesting. And so Brad Pitt's gonna kill him essentially,
Yep.
but Edward Norton's like, well, he's gonna force him to watch all these apartment buildings go burn down, and then I guess have the guys kill him, and then Edward Norton's like, wait, hold on a second, you're not even real. This is just my imagination. You don't have the gun, I have the gun, essentially. And he basically shoots himself to kill Brad Pitt's character. And it's just this crazy scene. And I thought he was putting it to his brain, but
I did too.
It went out the
I was
side
very
of his
confused by that
head.
too.
And he survived, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So anyways, Tyler Durden's dead. The narrator, Edward Norton's alive. And the bombs go off at this moment, though. And all the high rises start falling to the ground, and Marla's with him. And
this is one of my pet peeves with that with that scene. So when they're at the restaurant, and he's like, there's something wrong. I need you to listen to me. I need you to trust me, right? And she's like, no, I don't want to hear it. I'm done with you. And then she walks in, or she's been kidnapped by his men. She walks in on him having just shot himself, and he's like, and then she trusts him.
yeah.
So the guy who was just like trying to convince you when you were just in a restaurant, you won't listen to. But the guy who just shot himself and had his men kidnap you, you do listen to. And then right away, all the buildings start getting blown up. I'm sorry, what?
This is what a god complex does to a man.
Oh, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Maybe I'd have to rewatch it and dive deeper into it. But that's kind of the outline of the movie.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very
There's a
very
lot.
good film.
This is one of those movies where to watch, like to really get everything out of it, you have to watch it numerous times.
Yeah, it is. And 2 hours and 20 minutes is not a long movie, but I did feel like it was kind of long in some parts. Like I felt like there was maybe too much.
It was a little
in
bit
some
drawn
ways.
out. Too many examples almost of things.
Yeah. Like obviously the filmmaking kind of statement is assume your audience knows nothing, assume your audience is dumb, and like spoon feed it to them. I wouldn't say this is necessarily spoon fed because it leaves a lot of people like, oh, I didn't see that coming at all. But for people who are really looking into it, there's a lot to dive in, and obviously won't go through everything. I have some facts. Do you want to hear some facts?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so since we just talked about the ending, I'll talk about the Chinese version of the movie. Yeah, it's there's released a whole different like thing in China.
Different cut?
Yeah, different cut. But I think it's just the ending. But basically, so in the main film, Marla comes in. They're like together. They watch all the buildings blow up, and then they leave or whatever. Whatever's implied. And in the Chinese version, him and Marla are together, and a title card pops up and says the police successfully defused the bombs in the 10 buildings, and the narrator or Tyler Durden, whoever they said, was put in like had to atone for his crimes. He was put in a mental rehabilitation hospital.
Yep.
In 2012, he was released and
Well, but that makes
considered
sense.
mentally fit. And so, yeah, and it's like the title card, the same font as like the credits and everything like that. And that's the Chinese version. So none of the
That
bombs
makes
go
sense.
off. And like the police were able to find it thanks to his tip. And then he went to like psychiatric ward, pretty much.
Well, like I said, that makes sense because, it's China. They're trying to dissuade anybody from doing that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and that's interesting fact too, because I was reading today that you say stuff like that because there was a kid who made a bomb and basically said it was because Fight Club told him to do it, essentially.
Yeah.
And fight clubs were appearing all over the nation, actually.
I heard about that too. Like lots of people were doing it in their mom's basement kind of thing.
Yeah, I know. Toddler Fight Club, that was a huge scandal.
Okay.
Someone made a toddler fight club, like in a kindergarten.
Weird.
Yeah. And I had $20 on Timmy, and that was the worst day of my life.
But to be fair, I mean, like, I remember being in like grade, 4, and every day me and my buddy would just go out and fight each other. Like, it wasn't like fist fights, but we were fighting. We were wrestling and
That's true.
throwing. I remember doing that even younger with my buddies. It is just a thing that a lot of guys, particularly, they like to be. Look at why is MMA such a big thing? People like violence.
I do think there is a bit of a difference, though, between MMA, like professionally, and you having 3 beers and punching your buddy in the face and go,
True.
hit me back.
True. Have you seen some of the bare knuckle boxing stuff, out of
Yeah,
Russia
well,
and Europe and
no,
stuff, though?
It's
crazy.
The slapping, whatever
Oh,
they
the
call
slap
that.
fights. Yeah.
Oh, that's that. I see clips on that on like Instagram, and I just can't. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So Brad Pitt has a chipped tooth in this movie. Brad Pitt had his dentist chip that himself, unprompted by David Fincher or anyone else in production. Actually chipped his tooth, and then the $17 million he was paid for the movie, he used to fix up his teeth. I'm not sure.
Why would you
how
do
much of
such a
that went to
little
teeth.
thing though? Like, that's not even going to be noticeable.
He wanted to seem more rugged and.
But that's such a little. Get a fake tattoo or something if you want to seem more rugged.
Yeah. So this movie's based off of a book.
Why are all of our movies based off books?
I don't know.
pretty much?
Lots of movies are based on books.
That's true.
And so in the movie, they make soap bombs, and they give a recipe for how it would work and stuff, and it doesn't work. The recipe in real life doesn't work.
Yeah.
However, in the book version, if you follow the recipe that they say in the book version, it works.
Oh yeah.
So the movie, you will not yield
Yeah.
any explosives out of the
They
recipe.
need to put a big "Do not try any of this at home."
It's actually how they make bubble gum. Actually, is how I don't know.
Oh, with human fat? That's how they do it.
Oh no, sorry, Pop Tarts.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But then, yeah, the book one works for that.
How similar is the book and the movie? Do you know?
Fairly similar. The ending's different in the book, but the guy who wrote the book, I forget his name, said to the director, like David Fincher, and like the production crew, that he liked how they followed it.
Oh, okay.
So
that's good.
the author itself
If
gave
the
it a brand
author's
of-
like, yeah, I
of
like that
endorsement,
then. Yeah.
before it was released to the public, even.
Okay, cool. Good.
It opened at some sort of festival, and it was like severely controversial. But
Yeah.
the writer himself did say that he enjoyed
Yeah.
how they adapted it. Now, in the moaning scenes in the house where they're doing stuff, both Brad Pitt and Helena Carter did 3 days of dialogue recording, like 3 days straight of dialogue recording, just going at it. Like
That would be intense.
like standing in the studio, just like making the noises and stuff.
we
They
can
did-
do that though with the new damn voicing studio. If you need those kind of services, we can provide them. Ethan was practicing, so if you need the actors, we got them.
Oh man, that's insane. I just can't. Gary, I'm flustered right now. That's just horrible. So yeah, I can't imagine either 3 days of just doing that and the mic just blah, blah, blah. And I think last fact here is in the scene where they're on two facts. on the scene where they're on Paper Street, which Paper Street apparently is some sort of code for like a street that's not actually been made, but it's real on paper, but not real.
Oh.
Thing. That's what's
You know what that
paper.
reminded me of? Do you remember the Lorax?
Yeah.
For some reason, that house and like the deserted street reminded me of the Lorax.
Why?
Well, because he's got the big old mansion, and it's like in the ruins of like a factory, district, and I don't know. It just reminded me of the Lorax for some reason. I don't know why.
So you're saying all they needed was a truffula tree, and the whole movie would have been fixed.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Perfect.
And a live action Lorax.
Nice. Oh, that'd be great. Brad Pitt as the Lorax. So going through too on that note, while they're hitting golf balls, they're actually both drunk in real life. I don't think it was scripted.
Method acting.
They were hitting golf balls at the craft services truck. And David Fincher recorded it. And that's why. And I have another fact. You know the scene with the priest? Where you like spraying the guy with the hose or like the guy spraying him with the hose and then they like fight a little bit.
Yeah.
That same priest joins Fight Club.
Oh,
It's
he's seen.
super hard to notice, but yeah, there's a
That-
shot of him in Fight Club fighting a guy.
Hey. You know
So
what?
isn't that hilarious?
That was what they set out to do.
Yeah.
Also, for some people, I just realized might not know, craft services is like food. It's like the snack food truck.
Yeah. Feed your actors and stuff. So yeah, both of them are drunk, hitting golf balls at craft services, and they recorded.
Sounds like
it.
a good time to me.
Yeah, I know. It was after a long day of shooting.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I have for facts today.
Yeah.
Pretty good, eh?
Yeah.
Any particular things about the movie that stand out?
Technical stuff. They the way they do those actually some really trippy transition kind of things with like I'm trying to remember where there was one in particular. Have you seen those videos online like on like TikTok and YouTube Shorts where it's like the video and then it freezes and then it like moves and like stretches into
Oh right,
yeah.
Oh, I can't find milk in the fridge, and then mom comes and opens it, and there's like invisible milk comes out.
Yeah, things like that. There was
Yeah.
some transitions like that, or not transitions, but just special effects like that. I'm trying to remember where they were, but there was some really neat, like, image manipulation things that they did.
Sure.
Um,
Well, I think too when they did like the real snap thing, where like Brad Pitt's in some of those shots, and I think they do it 5-ish times. The last one is in the hotel room, where when Edward Norton's watching the video, Brad Pitt is one of the servers on the video.
Oh,
We're all crazy, eh? Yeah, and then at the end, they showed a dick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did like
Because it was that little cameo from that was Brad Pitt's job was the
Yeah, exactly. Which is interesting too. What I want to talk about from a story perspective is you have this guy who's made up.
Yeah.
Right? He's in Edward Norton's head, but he has a job. He has a backstory. He knows everything about that job, and he knows how to make like the bombs, knows how to make XYZ. So, just from like a not believability even, but like it's an interesting perspective because if Edward Norton's been living his life with an invisible friend, but he is that invisible friend, when would he have unconsciously known how to make all those things, right? It's just it's an interesting question to ask, right? How did he know how to do that? How did he blow up his own apartment and then get back down to the ground? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How did on the plane they had the same briefcase, but how did he get on the plane next to an empty seat in order to create that? Because we know he can't like copy over other people like in the bus, because obviously Brad Pitt can still be touched by other people, right?
Yeah.
So he's physical in a way almost, right? He's invisible but physical. So it's an interesting story thing to have that like just blow your mind.
I'm just trying to think like Yeah.
Yeah. All
I don't
right.
know what to say to that.
Yeah,
I don't have an
was just thinking
answer
about
to it.
that.
I don't have an answer
Yeah.
to it. So
Yeah, I was
that's
just
one of
thinking
those
about that
questions, you know?
today. Yeah, very interesting movie. Like I said, the no over the shoulder shot too is kind of
Yeah, that's
interesting. What else? What else is there that's big? There's some good special effects. I mean,
Yeah.
not
There's not a lot of need for anything crazy.
no, but like the
Like-
burning acid on the hand.
Yeah, that was well done.
That's good. The gunshot in Bob's head,
Yeah.
crazy.
Those
Lots of
some of
explosions.
yeah, but some of those gunshots were like way overdone. Like Bob was shot with the gun looked like a little handgun, but the
Yeah, like-
wound looked like a shotgun.
9mm,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
His name was Robert Paulson.
What?
You
Well,
guys ever seen
his-
Fight Club before? There's like 5 minutes worth of scene where all they do is chant. His name was Robert Paulson. His name was Robert
Bob.
Paulson. Yeah,
No, but they say remember because he's like no his
I'm done.
because remember his name was they walked in and he was like and they were like he doesn't have a name and he's like no his name was Robert Paulson and they're
Right,
like
but he
his
calls
name
him
was Robert Paulson.
But he calls it. Yeah, but he calls him Bob.
He does call him Bob.
He calls
yes.
him Bob.
Yes.
It's one of the most iconic scenes in the fucking movie.
But he calls him Bob. We're not doing formality.
Dude, I'm talking about the scene. His name was Robert Paulson. And they all start chanting it because...
Is he broken?
Oh, you guys are dumb. You're gonna look so stupid from this.
We're not.
Watch this.
What just happened? We call him Bob because that's what Tyler calls him is Bob, right?
Well, he does call him like Gary said. He does call him Robert Paulson in that one scene.
Remember the part of the movie?
Yes, we remember it, but that's not what we're talking about.
We remember the part of the movie where they all chant and they're like, "Oh yeah, we get it now. We get a name if we die for this thing." And he's like, "That's not what I mean." But it's like we're not referring to him. The first thing he says when he dies is, "That's Bob." And then they're like they don't even care. They're like, "Well, you didn't give us names." And he goes, "His name was Robert Paulson." You know what I mean? He's like freaking out. But he calls him Bob initially because that's what they were on terms. So we're doing like the more personal.
Of course, I'm talking about the importance of the scene. It's one of the biggest scenes in the entire movie that everyone still talks about to this day. Might be something to touch on.
It might be something to touch on, but that wasn't what we were talking about right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to what I was saying about the wounds
On Bob.
on Bob.
On Bob.
On
I'm
Bob.
happy we get that out of the way.
Like I said, they look like shotgun wounds, and there was another one. Who was it?
I could see that, yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't look quite right. But
What is the believability that he got shot through the cheek and he was able to talk like that?
oh yeah, that one. I was thinking about that afterwards, and I was wondering if it was almost just kind of like a metaphor for his internal struggle. Like he didn't actually shoot himself. Like I know it looks like he actually shot himself, but I feel like he didn't, because like just shooting himself was like a symbol of like banishing Tyler from his mind.
Sure. I
'Cause,
think
like you said, it looked like it was like up into his brain. Like how would you unless something bounces around, but you're still not going to be able to talk and be coherent.
yeah, I should say at the Roxy, the gunshot sound and the fighting sounds impeccable.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Maybe we should stitch that in earlier, but who cares? I think one of the benefits of making like a psychological kind of action film like this is it action? I would say it's action.
Yeah, it's like a psychological action thriller.
even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any kind of mistake or like plot hole can be looked at as, well, maybe it was just in Edward's mind.
Yeah.
So you
That's
kind of
true.
open advantages because everyone is looking at a plot with something like this that ends like this, rewatching it, trying to find all these little details and mistakes and connect the dots like little detectives. That it's like, it's impossibly hard to have that suspension of disbelief at a certain amount because you can watch like any like superhero movie or something like that, or like a mindless action movie and anything under the sun, and you can be like, all right, like turning my brain off, whatever, I believe that this happened, this happened, this happened, we got from point A to point B. but when you're watching the psychological thriller, you know, it's almost moving slower in time, right? Because you're trying to break down each shot while you're looking at it, and it's like, oh, I wonder why he said that. Oh, I didn't see that coming. Oh, I wonder if this relates to this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something interesting.
Well, also the action is on a much smaller scale, which slows it down, right? Like the action is, you know, fist fights and, you know, like hold-ups at gunpoint and stuff. Whereas in like your superhero movie, like you were talking about, it's like, oh, I'm gonna stop this building from falling, or a train from running off a bridge, or a sun god from, you know, blowing up Earth, right? Like it's a much larger scale, which speeds it up.
Yeah, like I think the point is like no one's thinking about, oh, how is he gonna stop that building from falling? It's, oh, I want to see that building like stop falling and him be the hero, right? Not picking apart like how is that feasible, but hell yeah, that's cool, America, you know. Which is I think probably the second show in a row I've said America.
Fuck yeah, lick my butt and suck on my balls, America.
Fuck yeah! Someone again, this is the motherfucking day, yeah!
I'm just trying to have a wholesome family discussion here about.
As I said before, if you have watched this movie, then I don't think that there's any concern about it being family friendly.
So
can we get these goddamn flies out of here?
Yeah, there's flies in here. So
the door's open. It's not dirty in
the
here.
line that Marla
Flies.
says when she's like, "I haven't been F that hard since grade school."
That's pretty fucked up.
So, one of the producers of the movie, the line was something different. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it. The producer of the movie fought for David Fincher to change the dialogue for it, and he said, "Yes, as long as you promise me that whatever I change next is permanent." And she goes, "Fine, okay." And so he changed it to that line, and she requested immediately that it got put back to what it was before. But yeah, so that line was like,
so that was more tame than the other one he wanted.
That was more tame. I don't know if we're allowed to say it, so maybe I'll tell you, and then we can choose if you want it. But the line originally was, "I want to have your abortion," was what she told Brad Pitt after they had sex. And
I'm against that.
And then, yeah, I'm not 100% sure if we're allowed to say it, but that was what the line was. And then now it's, "I haven't been F that hard since grade school."
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a crazy line. And I would say there is some comedic moments, you know, people laughing in the theater and stuff.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know, I was talking about the opening night, and I was reading this story where like half the audience was mortified, right? But Brad Pitt and Edward Norton were watching it together, and they were laughing their asses off in the theater, and like the only two people laughing, and they were having a great time in the theater, which is funny. It kind of gives you that a little bit of a dynamic, you know?
Yeah.
Fight Club 2 comes out in theaters next year.
Really?
No.
Oh.
No. I just wanted to see.
I'm like, oh, that would be cool. Wait a minute. How would they do a sequel?
Yeah.
There's not him in the mental hospital or something? Like,
oh, man. Yeah, it's just a dark room.
no, the white padded walls.
Yeah, he's like white.
It all takes place in one set.
Fight Club. All right. I don't know. What else? Is there anything else?
I feel like there is a lot that we're just forgetting.
This is a big movie.
Yeah, there's a lot to digest, which also means there's a lot to break down, but then you forget.
No, 100%.
You need things to trigger your mind.
This could almost be a two-parter, but maybe we won't do that. But,
I don't think so.
But, yeah, no, it's a massive movie. I enjoyed it. Like I said, there were some parts where I felt like it was a little too padded, but for the most part, I did enjoy it. Lots of cool settings and locations and stuff. And
they use a lot of, like, the cinematography of it is I found it kind of an interesting style, like all the insert shots they use. They use a lot of insert shots.
Yeah, quick cuts too and stuff.
And
like
like close-ups and it kind of in a way it made you feel more like it was like, because most of this takes place in his mind, like a lot of it, right? Sure. Like it's real, but a lot of it is kind of enhanced in his mind, we'll say. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, when you're like dreaming or you're thinking about something, you like know all of it. Like you're very aware, hyper aware of everything that is happening, every little detail. But like, here in like the real lucid world, we're not as hyper aware of everything. And I think that those insert shots help to make it more like in your mind, to give you all those little details. It makes you feel less like you're in the scene and more you are like
Part of the world.
part of the, well, not exactly, because like if you were in the scene or in the world, you would not have all that information necessarily, but it's almost like you're in his mind kind of, where you have all that information, right?
I can see that, right. Although it's interesting because they do a lot of shots of Tyler, and Tyler is him, but Tyler doing very different things that are, make them seem like two different people, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting how they do the flipping perspective, or maybe like even like a blackout thing. I don't know. I don't really know what to call it. But it's interesting what they do. And I think when Marla finds out he's kind of in the loony bin, is outside in the garden where he's like, dude,
Tyler's not here.
yeah, Tyler's gone, and then he asks her at the hotel, did we ever have sex? And she's like, tells him yes, and he's like, well, I wouldn't do this. What happened, right? And yeah, so very interesting story. There's a million things that we could talk about that I feel like would give us some unique perspective on it, but I feel like we've kind of touched up on a lot of the main points.
One thing I have to thank them for, so many movies, it's one of my pet peeves, when they go crashing through some sort of glass and they come out with not a scratch on them.
Sure. And
But
he gets up in his hand.
But he gets hand and there's glass in the wound, and it's like, thank you.
Yeah.
Finally.
No, absolutely.
They did realistic falling through glass.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good point too. Lots of interesting action, and it's a great concept. It was a fantastic watch. What would you rate it out of 10?
I'm gonna give it an 8.8.
8.8. Why are we putting random points in?
Well, because it's not as good as a 9,
Okay.
but like 8.5 is too low. So 8.8.
I was gonna give it an 8, but now that you did 8.9, I want to give it like an 8.4.
Okay.
So maybe I'll do 8.4. Maybe we'll see. It was a great movie. I thought it was really unique, well done, but I do think it was a little just too much in some points.
Yep.
Where it could have,
Yep.
been less.
Yeah.
Now that being said, I do think performances phenomenal.
Yeah, acting was really good.
I think Helena Carter, who plays Marlo, did a fantastic job.
Edward Norton, I was very impressed with him.
Yeah, good Edward Norton acting. And actually, Russell Crowe was going to play Edward Norton's character.
Really?
But this is pre-Gladiator when they did it.
Okay.
And so he wasn't a big star, and they were like, no, we want to spend the money to get a big star. And then Russell Crowe became a big star, right?
Star.
But Russell Crowe, was the original person that they were going to choose.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see it.
It was a great movie. I don't even know. I wouldn't even know. Like, sometimes you can be like, oh, that's a plot hole or something, but it's so hard to tell with this movie too, right? Is like so many like plot holes could be described simply by like the psychological part of it, or stylistically done with filmmaking, right? And I think there's a lot more if we break down into the surface. Maybe we could do a reprisal episode even. Relook at it, like
rewatch it.
Yeah, go in further details and stuff. I think there's a lot to unpack. But I think that's all I have for today.
I don't have anything else that I can think of. I will as soon as we, stop the recording. I'll think of 7 things, but
yeah, exactly. We put them in the description. Anyways, I think that's it for today.
Today.
Good job. Thanks for watching The Viewing Room.